Welcome in to the Real Monica Adams Show. Thrilled to have you with us. We have Dr. Sarah Jensen from Regional Dermatology. Again, she's got two locations, one west and one south, and we'll be giving you the information of how you can schedule your appointment with her throughout the show. Today, though, and this is something we've been talking about the last few weeks, that she was wanting to bring someone in that truly helped her personally and how she feels that he can really help you. Dr. Michael Twyman with Apollo Cardiology. Let me welcome both of them into the show today. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you.
Yes.
We're going to talk about a lot of things. That is how he approaches heart health and how healthy is your heart. I want to start with this because I would be remiss if I didn't. Dr. Jensen, someone wrote me, and I mentioned it a little bit last week, but this show, and you hope that every time we say something, that there's a way that we can help save people's lives. So Dr. Twyman, this is really powerful. A woman that I know reached out to me, haven't talked to her in a while, and she said, I wanted to let you know that the show that you and Dr. Jensen did just a couple of weeks ago, I almost didn't listen because I thought, yeah, I know I'm supposed to wear sunscreen. She said, I'm glad I did, because at the end of the show, we started showing pictures, and when she saw one of the picture show up on the screen, she said, I have that on me. Wow. And she went in right away to a concierge doctor because she was like, I just need to get in. Mm-hmm. And I showed you yesterday, I sent them, I don't know if you got the diagnosis.
I didn't see those diagnosed on my phone, but I heard it was maybe a melanoma.
It was squamous.
Oh, squamous cell.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, but the aspect after that said that they would have to go in deeper layers.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm hoping, she was scared. She said, I'm hoping that I caught it early thanks to your show.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
It gave me chills right away.
Yeah.
So that is why we do what we do. And even if in your mind you think, I know that, I already know that already, keep watching. And hopefully someone says, I'm going to share this with you, because it really was eye-opening. So thank you, by the way, Sindra, for sending that to me. Okay, let's start today. First of all, you telling your personal story about how you met him. Yeah. And then we're going to get to Dr. Twyman. We're going to talk about these glasses and all these fun things. I love when someone does show and tell with me. So we'll do that in just a second. So tell me about your personal connection to Dr. Twyman, how this all came about.
Well, I remember I was at Panera drive-thru with my daughter, and I wasn't feeling right. I just kind of didn't feel myself, and I said to her, if something seems off, call your dad, because something's wrong. And it just felt like my heart was kind of leaping around, and I didn't know what was wrong. We proceeded to go home, and we were kind of checking my pulse, and it turned out I think I was in AFib, which is just an arrhythmia, and your heart kind of goes in and out of different beats, and it's very irregular. So I laid down. I called a friend who worked in the ER. It just wouldn't kind of revert back to normal sinus rhythm, which is our normal, heartbeat. And so I ended up in the emergency room after a few hours of kind of sitting through that. And I converted right to normal sinus as soon as I think I paid my copay.
That's how it always happens, right?
I proceeded to get testing, and all my tests were normal. I went back, and my doctor was concerned and didn't really know what to do. And I was running a Pikes Peak in Colorado within a week, and she was very concerned about that. And so I think I got an echocardiogram. I got a CT, is it coronary scan?
CT coronary calcium.
Yeah, calcium scan. And it was positive, which is low positive. And this test is not fully, I think, understood, or maybe, it can be interpreted in different ways. And she didn't know whether to put me on a statin or what workup to do. And I didn't know either. And I'm not one to take medicines right away. Right? I don't really love the idea of that. So I sought out Dr. Twyman, who's a functional training and cardiologist, and took it from there.
And how did you find him? Did someone say he and you approach health the same way, or how did you seek him out?
I think it was during the time that I was doing the integrative training, and I had come across the SLIM, that St. Louis Institute of Integrative Medicine website, and he was there. He's a member, so.
And if you didn't see that show, by the way, another great show that we had on recently. If you're just tuning in, talking again with Dr. Jensen and Dr. Twyman. So we wanted to start with her personal story. I also want to stress, women, do not dismiss those things. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that she didn't go in and say, well, never mind, everything's okay, and I'm just going to let it lie and just leave it there, which unfortunately A lot of women do. Nothing to diss men, but women just go, 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 taking care of everything and don't take care of themselves. And heart disease is the number one killer of women. Okay, and you may think it's breast cancer. It's not. It's heart disease, but breast cancer right underneath that. Take care of your heart. So she does. Then you seek out Dr. Twyman.
Yeah.
Pick it up from there. Dr. Twyman, again, welcome from Apollo Cardiology. So you see her, and what is your approach at that point?
So I was conventionally trained at St. Louis University, so I can take care of people who are really, really sick in the hospital, but I really wanted to focus on the prevention of cardiovascular disease. So did some integrated functional medicine training and then got into the kind of the biohacking quantum biology world. So I know we'll talk about these in a minute. But when patients come into my practice, we get to the root cause of what's actually driving their issues, because heart disease is a scary thing. If you start having chest pain, shortness of breath, or palpitations, you want to know what's causing it. And sometimes in the conventional world, it's just like, here, take this medication, it'll suppress it. But we really want to know, like, can we stop it from happening again? And so we do a comprehensive battery of lab tests and tests that look at the actual kind of health of the lining of the arteries, because a lot of times it comes down to microvascular disease. Can your arteries provide enough oxygen nutrients to the tissues? And if it can, you tend not to have the AFib or chest pain or high blood pressure.
And so your approach vastly different from maybe other traditional approaches. So people that are watching or listening right now, and they have gone to a cardiologist, and it's completely the focus is on traditional medicine. Do you want to, because you and I are very big on this, bridge traditional, functional, homeopathic, holistic, whatever you want to call it? Because months ago, I did a traditional versus functional medicine show that was so powerful. And how do we get people to open their mind to what is not considered more traditional medicine?
So I would say that there's a place for both of them. I would consider myself practice more kind of like integrative, because I take the best from all the worlds. There's a time and place. If you're having chest pain, shortness of breath, or palpitations, you're going to show up to the hospital because that's often an emergency. And those people are very well trained to take care of you in the emergency. But where they sometimes fall down is the chronic care, the chronic disease. They just don't necessarily have that training to understand how to get to the root cause of it. And I don't fault them for that. You spend 10 years in training to become a cardiologist. You're going to use those skills once you get out into training.
Right.
I had to go seek other care to be able to do, or I'd say other training to be able to understand how I do what I do right now.
Absolutely.
It was just something I was just more curious in. So I think there's a place for both of them. But for patients who still have more questions, I feel that I have that kind of opportunity to be able to answer those questions for them.
And I'm glad you said that, because that is the biggest thing that I've always stressed. Obviously, I have for 30 years interviewed traditional medicine doctors, but was always intrigued by, why do we just throw medicine down and mask what it is instead of what is the root of it? Which is why we connect so much, and obviously why we're going to connect so much, because that's the whole thing. And I know she just mentioned that she went in, and as soon as she put the card in, oh, great, there's nothing here anymore. How often, though, have you heard from women and men both of, never mind, I don't want to bother anybody, there's nothing wrong with me, and how she could have dismissed that, and how many people do dismiss those things and then just go on with their lives?
Well, it's very common. I mean, heart disease is still the number one thing that kills both women and men, and often there's silent symptoms for many years, and then by the time you have symptoms, this has been going on for 10, 20 years. But a lot of times people, when they have some kind of thing in their chest, they're like, it's probably just indigestion, I'm just going to ignore it. But like, if it's persistent, you have to get checked out, because if it's your heart and it's something serious, it could be something that's fatal.
Yes.
So that's, it's not the boy who cries wolf, but sometimes you're going to show up to the ER, they tell you it's not your heart. Okay, great, it's not your heart. Now go work up with somebody who knows and get to the root cause, like, why are you still having those symptoms?
Right. And again, not dismissing it. So we have websites that my team is dropping for both Dr. Jensen as well as Dr. Twyman, so that you can find out more about this. So let's talk about where you were at that point, and have you had any issues since? And what were the symptoms? Because I don't want people to dismiss these things.
Well, I haven't had symptoms
Good.
since, which is great. We did a battery of tests, a lot of labs. They were like Cleveland Clinic kind of.
Right.
heart
Oh, Cleveland
based.
Health?
Cleveland Health Lab.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, and he does a very thorough job explaining it. And I also learned from his Instagram on Monday nights. He does some Q&As, which is great. He actually started me on, is it bergamot, which is an antioxidant, I think, from just the orange peel, right?
Correct.
And he did suggest an aspirin, but I'm a bruiser, and so kind of negotiated that away. And so one thing I have been very non-compliant is follow up. So after this, I will be making my follow-up appointment. We could all learn.
We do, right? And look at people that are in the health industry. They're the first that sometimes don't take care of themselves. So I'm going to follow up with her and make sure that she comes in. So Bergamot.
Correct, bergamot. Yep.
Bergamot,
Thank
right?
you. Thank
Which
you.
I see in candles and stuff sometimes, right?
Right.
We are in perfumes or whatever. So what is it about that that helps?
It's a HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor, but in English, it's basically works on the cholesterol pathways similar to the statins without the side effects.
Interesting. So again, we're getting down to the root cause from a supplementation standpoint, from the glass that he's wearing and other things that he's brought in. We're going to discuss all those and how you utilize those. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to look down if you have any questions, or maybe you're thinking, oh, interesting. So I've been dismissed by other people, which I've had. There's a woman who sat in this chair who literally she thought she was crazy because every traditional medicine doctor kept saying, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong. And then someone finally said, I think it's electric. And sure enough, she had massive heart problems. But she could have dismissed it because people were telling her there's nothing wrong. You know your body, though, and you know that something is going on. We're going to have more with Dr. Twyman, Dr. Jensen, when we return.
Come on, Monica. Let's go, St. Louis. Turn and burn.
Hello, Miss Monica.
Monica.
This is a good one. Sometimes you spend like 10 years and you don't got one like this.
Monica.
It's a feast. It's like a 17-course meal. You just like, you need a minute. With wine. With a wine pairing. And a whiskey pairing.
That is what. Here it is.
I think I just had the most beautiful experience. I saw fireworks.
Thank you, Monica, for making our day.
And if you are looking for something to truly just make you glow like I was glowing last week, I want you to go and see my friends at Elemental Aesthetics. They're located off North New Ballas, that 425 building. Again, so many levels of things that they can do for you there. I went in and had a facial that had to do with more oxygen as well as dermaplaning. And I tell you all the time that your makeup never will look as good as it does until you have dermaplaning done. It truly is just beautiful. One of the things that Jennifer Warman-Bloss prides herself on is having the top of the top when it comes to different lasers, different types of therapies and things that she can do, not just with your face, but they also do weight loss, whether it's medical grade or non-medical in the consultation. And right there are the chairs for IV hydration therapy. I can't wait to go in again. And I've already been told by some of you that you've made your appointments, which I love. Again, support those that support us. Suite 206, 425 North New Ballas Road. Elemental Aesthetics, of course, tell them the Real Monica Adams Show sent you. You can schedule online or call that number, 314-279-6069. My next time with Jennifer will be with IPL, and I've almost done it in the past, but I chickened out because I was told it was like rubber bands smacking me in the face, which just didn't sound fun. But then I've seen the before and after pictures of people that have had it done, and I'm like, okay, wow, that is pretty incredible. So yes, Elemental Aesthetics, thanks for being a part of the show. And by the way, Jennifer wants to meet Dr. Jensen and vice versa. She's like, I need to send people to her and vice versa. Have you ever had IPL done?
I have.
Does it hurt?
It does.
Oh, see? Dang it.
Sorry.
But why is it important to have it done?
Well, I was treating rosacea, which
Okay.
was helpful for me. Yeah, I got that in menopause. It developed with the redness on my cheeks,
Yeah.
and sometimes it tingles and it's like symptomatic even. So it did help.
On a level of 1 to 10, how much does it hurt?
I think I opted not to do the topical numbing, and that was my problem. I wanted to get it done quickly, so I think I would opt for topical numbing if they.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. We'll be real because it is the
Yeah.
Real Monica Adams Show after all. We'll be real about this. If you're just tuning in, Dr. Michael Twyman with Apollo Cardiology is with us with Dr. Sarah Jensen from Regional Dermatology. Again, let's put up on the screen, if you have not been into her yet, I want you to book an appointment. Don't put it off any longer. Just like the stories we've heard when people have dismissed things, don't do that. Regional Dermatology West in Chesterfield, Regional Dermatology South in Festus, and there are their hours. You can make the phone call and again put your appointment on the calendar, and do not cancel the appointment. Make it happen, okay? Dr. Michael Twyman, by the way, is with Apollo Cardiology. I tagged him in today's show, and we're dropping in links for him as well. So as I went into the break, we talked about Dr. Twyman, again, approaching in a different way, but we both talked about the importance of really tying together the traditional aspect and the integrative aspect. There you go, redlightdoc.com and drtwyman.com. So when you are having people come into you, your approach, obviously you're looking for the root cause, but let's talk about these glasses that you have and the other show and tell things that you have. Let's start with the glasses that you have on. What are they and how do they help?
So these are blue blocking glasses. They help with circadian rhythm entrainment. So you have a 24-hour cycle that is mostly controlled by the light that enters your eyes. And so when you wear these glasses, you're just telling your body what time of day it is. As we sit in the studio, all these overhead lights and such, they're set at the same color temperature as solar noon. So your body gets a different signal when you're under artificial light than when you're outside in full spectrum sunlight.
So are these lights bad for us?
They're not necessarily good for you.
Interesting. So what would happen if we're around this too much or around this too much, around our phones, and how much people are going to bed and just staring at that? How bad is that for us, and what can happen if we're around it too much?
It's probably the number one risk factor for people because it doesn't affect, or it says it causes so much more oxidative stress and inflammation in their system. And another thing is most people don't sleep very well. You know, people want to come to me and talk about nutrition, exercise. I'm like, if you don't sleep 7.5, 8 hours of very good sleep, it almost doesn't matter what you do exercise or, nutrition wise, because those are stressors on your system and you have to sleep well to dissipate those stressors. Blue light is a stressor to the system and it's ubiquitous. We all use this technology. But if your eyes are not getting the right signals, you don't make the right hormones. And the main hormones for this aspect is really cortisol and melatonin. So in an ideal world, before they invented light bulbs, the only light you would have had would have been sunlight or fire. And that's what you really want to try to recreate. Our evolution didn't allow us to jump 200 years in the future and have this type of light environment hitting all our systems. So in a normal day for myself, I'm out before sunrise. I'd have my glasses on because I don't want any artificial light in my eyes before the sun rises. When the sun rises, you get that bright light in your eyes and that wakes up your supracosmic nucleus. That's basically your master time clock in your brain. It tells the rest of the organs what time of day it is and how to make the different hormones and neurotransmitters. And then when I'm inside, I always have these glasses on. They're a yellowish tint. They're going to block about 40 to 50% of the blue light from reaching the back of my retina. There's receptors in the back of the eye that detect blue light. And it just changes throughout the day when the sun is rising. So, at 10 a.m., it's a different color outside than it is at noon versus right before the sun sets. And then when the sun sets, no more blue photons of light hit your eye. And so your body gets a signal, it must be becoming nighttime. And so cortisol, the hormone of alertness, starts to dip, and melatonin, the hormone of darkness, starts to rise. But if you're constantly bombarded by artificial light, you keep just pegging cortisol high. This is why there's an epidemic of people who have insomnia. It's because they're on their devices 2 minutes before they try to lay their head down on the pillow, and then they might be able to fall asleep. But the classic story is they wake up at 2 a.m. wide awake and like, I can't go back to sleep. It's not that they need more hormones. It's that they need to stop getting so much artificial light in their eyes at night.
That's it. From here on out, those glasses you see me using right here, they're going to end up having that tint on them. Where do you get those?
There's various manufacturers that make them, but the key is that they have to block a certain wavelength of light. So there's some brands that will say that they're clear blue blockers. Those essentially will not work. They have to block at least 450 nanometers of blue light or just light in general. So they're going to be at least this yellow. And then I have a different pair of glasses that I call these kind of the biohacker glasses. But these are red tinted. They're going to block 100% of blue spectrum of light, 100% of green spectrum. They basically tell your body it's midnight. And so I rarely have to use these because my sleep is so dialed in. But I recently did a trip to Bali, and it was 30 hours of flying to get there. And so that really messes with your circadian rhythms when you jump that many time zones. So I brought these with me on the plane. And so when it was nighttime where I was going, I would just put these on when I was sitting in the plane and getting my body ready to be in that environment. And so when I got there, I had zero jet lag, where everybody else was pretty messed up for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I'm going to Italy, so I need some of those.
This would help.
Can you put those on for me?
Sure.
I just want to see
Yeah,
these
these-
funky glasses he has.
Yeah, these are the.
If you're just tuning in again.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love,
yeah,
you
yeah.
look hip, Dr.
Yeah.
Twyman.
Yes. Yeah. These ones are so, I'm so sensitive to these. Like, normally if I wear these, I'll be asleep in under an hour.
Oh, hang on.
So-
We don't want him to fall
Yeah.
asleep before the show's
It's like
over.
yeah,
Put the other ones
yeah,
back on. So are there, if people are, I can guarantee they're going to watch the show and they're going to want to start seeking out, do you have sites or do you at Apollo Cardiology sell these?
On my website, there are some references to some of the manufacturers I know that make quality glasses.
Good. Okay, so again, did that just give you an aha moment? We hear a lot, and you and I have talked about it a little bit, about red light therapy and how it helps. Have you utilize red light therapy in your own personal life?
Yeah, with hair loss, people do want to know about like the helmets that they use. I think there's a lot. It's touted to help a lot of things, right? And I don't know about like the wrinkles and the skin,
Right.
conditioning, how it does for that. I really don't know if the studies have proven that. I don't think it hurts except for the wallet, right? Because they're not cheap. But I think there's definitely some good data out there for like muscle rejuvenation, like joints. I think that's where I see more of the sort of more solid data. But Dr. Twyman really is a
You're a big proponent of it.
Big proponent, yes.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you why. I'm going to take a quick break. I haven't had a chance to look at your comments and questions yet, but we're going to transition into red light therapy because if you look all over the news, it's everywhere. But what can you believe? What can you decipher? As she just mentioned, there might need to be some more studies as to whether it helps from a cosmetic standpoint. And we've talked about probably a year ago, all these things that are out there. If it doesn't hurt you, and you've got the money to pay for it, what does it hurt? A lot of times it's the pocketbook, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But there are things that it's really helping for, and that's what Dr. Twyman's going to address with red light therapy when we return.
Discover your full potential with a personalized styling experience. Designing, customizing, and transforming the looks of men and women. Revamp your individual style and embrace what makes you, you. That's real confidence.
Monica's show, it's very informational, but more importantly, inspirational.
People such as myself and others can come out and talk about real issues that are taking place in our communities.
These are amazing, really, really important topics that don't get discussed enough.
It really just promotes people who are making change and doing good in their lives.
In the comment section just said, Dr. Twyman, I absolutely love my blue light blocking glasses. That's Dr. Sean from Mid-America Spine. Jennifer Warman Bloss, who again we've been talking about with Elemental Aesthetics, she says using blue light blocking glasses and the darker red glasses have helped me sleep so much better. She can't wait to talk with you. She's like, I just absolutely love what he does, and she's doing more and more studies because of what you do. So you've been an inspiration to her. Julie said, I was told by my former doctor that I have MVP, and I was put on Metropol. What is it?
Metoprolol. He's the expert.
So she's got, it's probably not spelled right, but she's got it like Metropol. I've been on it for years. Sometimes my heart races and it goes away. It doesn't happen very often. I was told this is just something I have to live with. Is this true?
Possibly, but mitral valve prolapse is very common. But it depends because the criteria for diagnosing it changed a few years ago. So a lot of women who were told that they have mitral valve prolapse actually don't. But mitral valve prolapse, if you actually have it, it's when the valve between the top chamber and the bottom chamber of the heart kind of pulls itself back up into the top chamber, and those strings of that valve kind of pull on the bottom chamber, and then that causes some of these early heartbeats. And so then people get put on beta blockers, which is metoprolol, to try to calm down some of those early heartbeats.
Okay, and Linda said, my husband has AFib. Please give us the information on that supplement you spoke of. I'm going to look into it.
Oh, well, mine is bergamot, B-E-R.
B-A-M-O-T.
Yeah, bergamot.
But that's
yeah.
typically not necessarily for
Yeah.
atrial fibrillation. That's
Right.
more for dyslipidemia or abnormal lipids.
Right.
So if someone
preventative.
has AFib, what would be your approach? You've got to see them.
Got to see them to figure out what's causing it. But I mean, it's often it's an energetic issue with their mitochondria, and you got to figure out what you can do to support the mitochondria.
Okay, and so again, if you have a comment or question about anything that we've talked about or anything you would like for Dr. Twyman or Dr. Jensen to hit on, please let me know. Richard said 18 months ago I had a heart ablation. 2 months after that, I started complaining about what I called my morning heart attack. My chest and arm muscles would just hurt for the first half hour I was awake. Everyone said I was fine until 8 months later when they finally found out I was 87% blocked in my widowmaker. I got a stent 9 months ago. I hate being on blood thinners, but I'm curious why I have to take cholesterol medicine when my cholesterol is really not that high.
Cholesterol is just one part of the issue with developing plaque in the arteries, but the cholesterol-lowering agents, they help stabilize the plaques so that they don't rupture, and they also help the plaques regress, so they can get the plaques to shrink.
So Linda just said, darn, I need those red glasses. I leave for France next week, and it's a night flight. Would she be able to get those pretty quick, do you think?
You should be able to, yeah, or just look on Amazon, but just make sure that they're dark enough that you can get them.
Is there a particular percentage that they need to be looking for, or how would she know when she's ordering?
But they're blocking, if she's wanting
Yes.
the red ones, they got to block at least 550 nanometers, 550.
But you do have on your site some of your recommendations, right? And we
Correct.
put that up. If you want to put that up again, Zach, if you want to do that for me, that way we can have them go to his site and see again who and what he recommends. Jennifer wrote earlier. Let me see if I can find. Here it is. She said, "I'm excited to hear your approach. Your reputation exceeds you. I'm especially interested in quantum biology and light and magnetism."
Yep. So those are the three things that are necessary for light, water, and magnetism. So we talked a little bit about light.
Right.
But that was one of the things I was in Bali for. It was a meditation retreat, but the second part was just to experience energy. There's 2 volcanoes there, so the magnetic flux is off the chain. It's so good. So I don't know if you guys have talked about grounding or earthing on the show before.
A little bit with
But-
the gentleman who actually gave us that poster that's right behind Dr. Jensen. He is with the Healing Arts Center. Do you know Tom Tessero?
I do not.
I need to connect you to because, yes, he's into all of that. But I'd like to hear your take on grounding.
I mean, it's anti-inflammatory. It helps with keeping your blood thinner so the red blood cells don't stick together, the platelets don't stick together. It helps with basically putting electrons into your system, and that's the whole story about quantum biology. It's exciting electrons with light. Your mitochondria are the organelles in your cells that make energy for you. People will eat food, but the reason they're eating food is basically to break that food back down into electrons so the mitochondria have something to use to make ATP, water, carbon dioxide, and heat. But if you're grounding, you're getting electrons in the system without having to eat. When you eat, it's like putting fuel into an engine. There's going to be smoke. There's going to be reactive oxygen species, free radicals made. If you're doing it with grounding, you don't have to do that. So it's one way for your body to basically eat without having to cause inflammation in the system.
Do you ground?
I'm not sure if I.
You've never done grounding?
No.
I have. I was introduced to it probably, 10, 15 years ago. How often do you do grounding?
As much as I can.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it?
Just barefoot on
entail?
the ground is
Yes.
the easiest way to think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
yeah, the earth is negatively charged and free electrons are absorbed into your hands and feet. when
Okay,
you're
then
connected.
I do.
And what about the products that are out there that say that they assist in grounding?
Depends. There's some companies that make some good shoes. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to get cold here in St. Louis in a couple months. People are probably not going to be barefoot outside. But there's shoes that will have different, either copper plugs or some type of kind of grounding material so that, you can use them. But if you just have leather-soled shoes, animal skins conduct electrons. But if you're speaking of some of the grounding technologies
Like
that you
mats
bring
and
into your,
things, yes.
your house, you have to be very careful. I would not use them without getting a building biologist to confirm that you don't have dirty electricity in your walls, because you can get what's known as jump electricity or jump conduction. So if you lay a grounding mat down and you lay on it and your place isn't wired right, you're attracting EMFs into you instead of actually getting benefit.
What are your thoughts on people having used magnets and things like that in the past for health?
Yeah, there's a company that makes that magnetic pad that people can sleep on called the Magnetico. Magnetism is something that is more prevalent in the evening time. When the sun is out, the magnetic fields are lower. At nighttime, the magnetic fields are higher. So that's another way, or a zeitgeber for the body to know, is it daytime versus nighttime. And now with the ubiquitous of our technology, that EMF kind of haze essentially confuses the body to know if it's daytime or nighttime. So if you sleep on these certain magnetic pads, the body knows that it's nighttime. But your mitochondria, they're going to take these electrons and they're going to pass them through there. And at the end, your body makes energy, or ATP. In a magnetic field, those electrons would flow faster. So make energy faster.
We went to the break saying we were going to talk about red light therapy. Before we have Dr. Twyman address how he uses it and the benefits, again, from a health standpoint. In your practice, Dr. Jensen, how many people right now are coming to you when they're hearing about, because again, it is all over the news, but it's also all over, I don't have a phone in here, it's also all over Instagram and TikTok, and you don't know what you can decipher through and really believe. You've got these influencers who say, oh, use this because of this.
Right.
In your practice, what percentage would you say started to come to you for red light therapy?
I would say it's mostly my hair loss patients that are dealing with the red light therapy, because they're always asking, should I add that in addition to what I'm giving them, like medically or the PRP or what we do? So I kind of leave it up to the patient. Obviously, it doesn't hurt at all. It's just they are not cheap. They run $800 or $900 a piece. So not everybody has that kind of disposable spending to
because that's not covered by insurance.
No,
correct. And you mentioned PRP, which I don't know if people saw that episode, but platelet-rich plasma.
We just
how do you use it again?
We just draw their blood, we spin it down, and we draw out those rich platelets, and we re-inject it back into the scalp. The idea is maybe you're going to regenerate those hairs that have kind of shrunk down. So it can be effective. It just depends on the patient.
Again, all these advancements in medicine, just every single second, not just day, every single second, the advancements that happen in traditional and integrated medicine. So from red light therapy in your practice, tell me your feelings on it and what are you all using it for right now?
So it was back in 2017 when I kind of figured out the circadian biology with wearing these type of blue blocking glasses. So it was just a short step over to figuring out, okay, this red light therapy probably has something that's going to be important. So I did the research and realized, okay, it's the red and infrared wavelengths of light that are very important for mitochondrial health. So the mitochondria, again, the organelles in your cells that make energy for you, in the presence of red and infrared light, the mitochondria make energy more efficiently. And so I sometimes joke that these are supplements. You can always do it with full spectrum sunlight, but if you're stuck inside or you have an actual area of injury, you can kind of focus this photonic energy into that area and try to get it to heal better. As Dr. Jensen mentioned, the majority of the research came out of the musculoskeletal world. This technology has been out since the mid 60s or so. But most of the data, or I should say research, was done in Germany and Russia, and because of the Cold War, a lot of that data didn't get to the States until the late 90s. NASA's been using it since the late 90s up in the space station. So a lot of the new LED technology, that's due to NASA. But these devices, they can help with anything that is injured because it brings more blood flow into that area. It helps lower inflammation and decreases pain receptors. So, from head to toe, yes, it can regrow hair in some instances. It's very good for oral health, thyroid health, heart health, gut health, musculoskeletal health, possibly sexual health. So anything that hurts or needs more energy, you might be able to use one of these devices.
And you're seeing the slide that we have on the screen right now, also talking about promoting wound healing and tissue repair?
Correct. Yeah. In a lot of cases, that's what the plastic surgeons will use it for, is that because it stimulates collagen production. Just from personal experience, if I get a cut at home, after you get the bleeding to stop, I get one of my devices and treat it as soon as possible, and rarely do you scar up then.
So how long are you needing to be around the red light therapy?
That's a great question. This is where it does get to be a little bit the Wild West out there in the social media world, is that it basically is three things that you have to look at. You have to look at the wavelength, so basically the color of light. You have to look at something called the irradiance, or the power density. That's basically like how many photons of light are coming out of the device. So it's equivalent of like, is it coming out as a drip out of a faucet, or is it a fire hose? How many photons of light are coming out? And then it's going to be how far away can you be from the devices? So all these ones are battery powered, so they're DC electric powered, so you can have skin contact with them. So if something hurts, you can put it right on there, so the photonic energy can be more directed. Many of the devices, when you plug them into the wall, they're going to have fans. There's going to be EMFs spinning off of those fans, so most of the device manufacturers recommend that you stand back from them. Most of the red light, when it hits you, well over 60% of it's just going to bounce off your skin. So only the light that's getting absorbed actually benefits you. So it's a distance and then a time. So it's kind of like a recipe. So sometimes I talk about patients, like if you're cooking a turkey, you could drop it in boiling oil and it's going to take 2 seconds to cook the turkey, but it's going to be super crispy. Or you're going to use a flashlight. The flashlight's never going to cook that turkey. So you need the right wavelength of light, the right irradiance, and then the right time, essentially.
So if we look at this, would the two of you actually recommend that someone get these devices at home, or is it more beneficial for them to go into someone like the two of you? You obviously are doing this on a daily basis. They have so many questions, they don't know whether they're doing it right or doing it wrong.
I'd say it's both. I have a practice that, I have a huge 8-foot tall panel in my building that helps, head to toe photobiomodulation. So I often will put patients in front of that panel just to show them what it's going to feel like, what they should be looking for. And then if they're interested in getting a home device, then I kind of walk them through it. And you mentioned, some of these devices can be pretty pricey, but it really depends on what you're looking for. Like this particular device, it's maybe $200-300. If you're getting a quarter size panel, probably is $700-800. Or if you're getting a full size panel, it's a couple $1,000. I mean, there's some professional units that I had access to and used at some of these anti-aging conferences. They're $120,000.
Oh my goodness!
They're amazing, but like the average person's gonna have one of these at their home,
Right.
But you don't need one of those type of devices to get the benefit of red light therapy.
Oh, exactly. Well, let me ask this, because there are red light therapy stories that are out there, but then I was mentioning elemental aesthetics earlier. Jennifer has the lights that actually change. So then it's blue, it's purple. What do all the different colors do?
Yeah.
Well, we use blue light therapy in our office for sun damage. So we'll actually paint the skin with a medication that makes the skin more sensitive to the light. They wait about an hour and a half, and then it takes effect. And so, and then they'll sit under that blue light for maybe 15 minutes. It can sting and burn a little bit, but we're treating sun damage, precancers. And those patients do have to stay out of sunlight for the next 2 days, or else they'll continue to react, and that can be very effective for sun damage for people who don't want to use maybe a chemotherapy cream, or maybe they just try to fit it in their schedule because it's much easier. Yeah.
And we had talked in past weeks that people will start coming to you here, as we just mentioned. The autumnal equinox is on Sunday, fall officially beginning, and this is the aha of, I better get into Dr. Jensen. I can't get into another dermatologist. There's like 6, 9, 12-month waits. All right, great. Monica's been telling me I can get into her. I need to start addressing what I've done to my body.
Yeah.
Right? I just came to you, and I promise you I'll be a good girl, but I will be out in the sun a lot in Cabo in about a week.
Yeah.
You're not worried about me, are you?
No.
You've told me what to do.
We need our vitamin D. And
Yes.
Dr. Twyman would definitely say, get out in the sunshine, right?
But, okay, and I will ask you that, Dr. Twyman. How much sunshine do we need to have?
Well, it's going to depend, one, on your Fitzpatrick skin type, and she could probably explain that much better than I, but basically, how prone are you to burning? And then it's really about, what is your goals? I mean, everybody needs the sunrise, period. There's no UV light at sunrise. You need that light in your eyes to set your circadian rhythms every single day. How much time? The light's instantaneous, but a few minutes is probably a good starting point. You can ground while so you can kind of double that kind of benefit. But then there's different wavelengths of light throughout the day. UVA comes out, depending where you're at, how high off the kind of the equator, it can maybe come out 10 minutes or an hour after the sunrise. And when that UVA hits your skin, it liberates nitric oxide from the blood vessels, the arteries dilate. And your skin's getting preconditioned for when the UVB comes out later that day. And UVB is the wavelength of light that sulfates the cholesterol in your skin and ultimately turns into vitamin D. And from a vascular standpoint, I really like to see vitamin D levels 60 without supplementing. But I don't want people burning. That is not the goal. And so everybody's gonna have a different kind of recipe of like how much time they need to be able to do that. There's a free app. It's called D-Minder Pro. You download the app. When you log on to it, there's a GPS, so it knows where you're at in the world. And it will tell you at your current location, what time of day should you be outside to maximize your vitamin D exposure without burning. And you put in your Fitzpatrick skin type, so how likely are you to burn. So if you have more melanin in your skin, you're gonna need more time because the melanin reflects the UV. And so if you're really dark skinned, you're probably gonna need 4 to 5 times more sun exposure than somebody who's fair head and freckled. So that's why I said there's no magic, like everybody needs 20 minutes. It really depends on your skin type and kind of like how much you've been building it up. Like you say you're going to Cabo. Like if you've done proper sun exposure through the summertime, you should be fine there. But if you hit inside all winter long and then you go to Cabo in January and you go out at solar noon, you're actually going to fry.
Right.
So your skin is, something that you got to kind of build up a solar callus to.
And we've talked in the past also how it changes as we get older. People that used to say, I would be able to tan all the time, and now I've got this poisoning on my skin. And we actually ran into a girl over the weekend, and she's like, I got to get into Dr. Jensen because I just don't understand. She went to somebody, and they said, you just have to deal with it. And she thought, is there something that I should be doing so this doesn't happen to me again? She wants to talk to you about that.
Yeah, you can prevent that for sure.
Yeah, prevention, right? Prevention, root cause, etc. I'm going to take our final break. We're going to wrap up any questions and comments that you have. We'll look at those again. But we talked about sleep, and I've heard in the past from a sleep doctor that it depends on ages as to how much. But I'm in unison with you, Dr. Twyman. I've always believed that it should be 7.5 to 8 hours. Kids maybe get more. Should they be? Older people say that they don't need as much. Should they not get? I mean, those are questions I have for you. So we may go just a few minutes after 8 if he and she can. Are you okay with that? Okay, good. Also, any questions that you have, drop them in right now. We'll look at them during the break. This is my wonderful role model, one of my best friends.
She said, oh my gosh, you got a long life. You could probably live to be 130 or something. And I said, oh God, I hope not.
It's getting hot in here. Don't take off all your clothes.
I'm not going to take off my clothes. On the radio tape, going to
Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. We're gonna speak. We're not gonna spank anybody. We're gonna speak about knowing your value, and then I'm gonna.
I'm going to spank them. If you don't know your value and you don't grab hold of how important you are, I'm going to spank you. Folks, you never know what you're going to get with her.
And just last week, I asked, what would you like to see more of? Everyone said they love our health talk and our Medical Monday. These aren't going away anytime soon. You also asked for more of her, so you got it. Mom and Mon senior moments will happen. Well, I just talked to Dr. Twyman and Dr. Jensen going into the break about the length of time that we need to be sleeping. And I hear people of the older generation saying, oh, we don't need as much. We get 3 or 4 hours. Then you have people who have kids, teenagers, and they say, oh, they need like 10 to 12 hours of sleep. What are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, sleep is when your mitochondria repair themselves, and when you're younger and growing, you probably do need more sleep. And their sleep cycles are going to be different than what an adult's going to have. So some of the things I'm talking about, this is mostly for people mid 20s and above. But as you noted, when you age, you tend to not sleep as well. Not always, but if your circadian rhythms are not dialed in, you're not going to have optimal sleep. So I always start there. Like if people's light environment's messed up, fix that first, and then look at the timing of their eating. There's a very good book from Dr. Satchin Panda called The Circadian Code. They fed these animals the exact same food, but some of them, they ate in a compressed window and some could eat ad lib. The ones that ate ad lib had worse sleep. So I often recommend people, like, if you're not sleeping the way that you need to or want to, you got to stop eating 3 to 4 hours before you plan to go to bed.
See, I actually picked today 100 Days of Freedom from Overeating. I don't know how many times I've told my clients, you cannot eat like you're eating an hour or 30 minutes before you go to bed and think that you're going to sleep well. Your digestive tract is screaming at you, just so mad that you've done that. So I'm so glad you touched on that. We could probably go a lot deeper into that, but 3 to 4 hours, I've always said in my health industry. I'm glad that you said that. You probably agree with it as well.
Right.
We talk about gut health, on what it happens to the skin on so many levels, but from a sleeping aspect, I've been told, and the industry that I worked in for the last 30 years before I decided to walk away from that, was so detrimental to our heart. We heard about it over and over and over again. We would get up at 1:30 in the morning when most people are just getting into their deep sleep, and we're up and dealing with what we're dealing with. Around this, you're really making me think about all the lights that I was in front of and what kind of damage I did. I hope I'm okay. But I do, I guess, believe that I need to be wearing those now that I know for what I have in here. So if you didn't have those glasses on, would this be freaking you out right now?
A little
probably,
bit? Yeah.
Yes. Which
since 2017, I pretty much have never taken these off of them inside.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
then
then
I don't control the light. So.
Your building is your office is in this building, right? And so what do you have up against your windows?
I mean, my office is all circadian rhythm friendly. I mean, I don't have any artificial lights on unless it's absolutely pitch black outside. And then, I sit on a corner so I get light from both sides. So.
Yes. Again, there's so many levels of what we've talked about today that we could go on for another hour. I'd love to have you back on.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely. So there's so much to discuss. You were right, as she has always been since I met her, of how he can help you. So let's put all the information up on the screen for you to find him, as well as making your appointment with her. So redlightdoc.com and drtwyman.com. There's also a part on that website where you'll see supplementation. As I mentioned, there's so much more that we could get into. But the devices we talked about today, the glasses we talked about today, more of him helping you understand, are you at higher risk? Prevention, again, is key. Early detection. Don't dismiss anything that's happening with you. 1034 South Brentwood, right here in this building. He is located in this building where we are on the University Club Tower. What floor are you on?
12th floor.
On the 12th floor. Well, I'll come down and say hi. We'll have to have breakfast one day.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Jensen, for you to set up your appointment with her. She, again, has 2 locations. One is west, one is south. The one south is in Festus, the one west in Chesterfield. Go to their website and make your appointment, please. Just like we've heard from one of the viewers last week, don't dismiss things that you're seeing on yourself or that you question. My mom and my aunt are coming in too. I think it's this week.
Great.
You get a chance to meet 2 wonderful women in my life. And for all of you that have been into her already, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Again, supporting those that support us. Love everything you've ever brought to this show and continue to bring. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just adore her. Now I adore you. Dr. Sarah Jensen, Dr. Michael Twyman. We're going to take our final break. I've got to tell you, this actually is quite a health week. Tomorrow it's all about the men. And I had a discussion over the weekend with a lot of guys of topics that you're not talking about that I wish you would. She literally broke the mold of saying, I'm just going to talk about all of this when you talked about menopause, one of our most popular shows on the talk show and on the audio podcast. And I truly believe in my gut, I get chills on this. I think tomorrow is going to be huge for men. And hoping that men start saying, All right, you're right. We do need to talk about these things because it's a reality and it's things that happen. You're actually going to hear about some of that coming up after the break. Thank you both so much for coming in.
Thank
I hope you have a blessed day. Can't wait to get those glasses. They're cool looking.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back to wrap up the show right after this. Everyone knows about Jody's balls, and why is that?
I have the best ball.
Oh, wait. All right, welcome back. We always wrap up with our devotionals. People have asked where they can get these. I got them at the Crossing in Chesterfield. You can find them on Amazon. 100 Days to Freedom, and it just seems fitting today, from overeating. Again, you've got to watch your nutrition. Take care of your heart. Eat heart healthy. You have to be kidding me. Look what it says.
You know I can't read without my glasses.
I can read.
Do
It
you
says a heart issue.
Yes.
How is this possible? I'm telling you, I did not pick this.
That's
My
great.
team will agree with this. I just happened to reach for it going, maybe we'll talk about
serendipitous.
this. Is silly. You're funny. A heart issue, day 21. Give me an undivided heart that I may fear your name. This is Psalm 86, verse 11. While God offers us amazing grace in our lives, he also calls us to a place of decision making about what we are truly willing to do in order to make the changes necessary to live a life of freedom. For example, in the Bible story of the rich young ruler, the ruler wanted to know what he needed to do in order to inherit eternal life. Jesus told him, obey all the commandments, sell all the possessions, and give to the poor. But the man wouldn't do it. His security had been in his wealth and his own ability to take care of himself. He was not willing to sacrifice all of who he thought he was for all he could be. He trusted his possessions more than Jesus. His heart was divided between what he wanted and what he had. Many of us struggle with a divided heart because we cling to aspects of food that serve a purpose in our lives. Food, does it make you happy? Does it distract you? Many people eat for comfort, or it's like really boredom eating, and then you wonder where all the weight came from. Does it provide relief from an unhappy relationship? You think it does. Feelings of failure, satisfies boredom, as I just mentioned, protects us from unwanted attention, or it's a way of showing love. God does not leave us alone in our difficult moments, but he promises to be with us. He also gives us his spirit to empower us, but we must choose and not have a divided heart. Rick Warren said, we become whatever we are committed to. Charles Du Bois said, the important thing is this, to be able at any moment to sacrifice what we are for what we could become. I love that. Today's prayer, dear Lord, I ask that you purify my heart and not let it be divided. Help me to surrender all of myself to you so that I will grow in my journey of healing. Thank you for your grace. Amen. So tomorrow, do you know Dr. Salim Hawatma, either of you? Have you ever heard of him? No. So he and his father own South County Urology. That is the gentleman who will be on with us tomorrow. And they have been doing so much for men for so long. Tomorrow, two things that right as I say them, you might go, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Erectile dysfunction and incontinence. I said this to a guy over the weekend, yesterday actually, and he said, men get incontinence? And I said, 1 in 10. It was an aha for him. So I'm going to ask you this. Erectile dysfunction can affect your self-esteem? Yes. Do you talk about it? No. Impact your most important relationships. If you've tried pills, maybe you've tried pumps, even injections, or you've done nothing about it because you just left it alone and thought that's how you had to live your life, as we discussed, women thinking menopause, all these things that she talked about, right? Painful sex, night sweats, not being able to sleep because of everything we go. I mean, we didn't even touch on that, Dr. Twyman, about women who can't sleep because of the menopausal aspect. If you have not found a solution, there is hope. I want you to look at edcure.org, which we'll talk a lot about tomorrow. You can take a free online assessment that you can share with your doctor and learn more about it. A permanent, satisfying solution to treat ED. That's just one of the things we're going to talk about with Dr. Hawatma. Again, edcure.org. Thanks to Boston Scientific for being a part of tomorrow's show. And then on Wednesday, we're going to talk about weight loss. We're going to hear Jennifer Warman-Bloss and what she went through, insulin resistance, the many levels of what she went through. We'll also continue to discuss all the services that she has with Elemental Aesthetics. A wonderful week of a lot of health-related topics, which, you know, just lights me up. So as you know that we're going to be talking about that, let us know if you have any questions for our guest over the next couple of days so we can be sure to get that into them. Thank you again to Dr. Sarah Jensen, Dr. Michael Twyman, and of course to all of you for being here every day. Share the stories with your followers to continue to spread. And on this Thursday morning's podcast, you'll hear this. I knew this would be a powerful show. So if you want to hear it and receive it in a different way as you throw those earbuds in and you're doing your exercises, whatever, listen to it all over again. Those are, of course, on all of the audio podcast platforms. Thank you so much. And remember what I always tell you, go out, be anything you want to be in this world, but the greatest thing you can do is to be kind. God bless you all.